everyone, I'm Liz Eggleston and I run Course Report, which is a resource for students who are choosing a coding bootcamp. If you haven't looked at Course Report yet, this is my one shameless plug. I do it in all of our videos. You can use our directory to find schools that fit your learning style, and you can check out our blog for interviews with students and instructors and founders at bootcamps across the world. Plus, we've got application tips and virtual classroom tours, and so much more. So we talk a lot about the career change that you can make when you quit your job and go to an immersive boot camp for 3 months. But today we get to compare that full-time boot camp experience to the part-time boot camp experience and what it's like to study while you're balancing other commitments and all of that good stuff. So who better to compare part-time with full-time than two alumni who have actually done it? I am very excited to be joined today by Andie and Lanre. So thanks y'all for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So Andie is a graduate of Codesmith's Full-Time Immersive Bootcamp and now is a software engineer at Google. And Lanre is a graduate of Codesmith's Part-Time Immersive and is now a senior software engineer at Exodus Movement. So both of them have been really successful, but they kind of took different journeys at Codesmith to get here. And I can't wait to hear about how you both did it. So let's back up a bit first. Andie and Lanre, could you both just tell us what you were up to before you went to Codesmith?
Yeah, I can start it off. So before Codesmith, I was actually completely non-technical. I was working for a nonprofit in the Japanese American community in Little Tokyo in Los Angeles. Very fulfilling in different ways, but just kind of realized I wanted to go the tech route. So yeah, started kind of studying on my own, going to Codesmith's free workshops that they host, got really into it, and now I'm here.
For my part, before Codesmith, I was a freelance software engineer. And I've been doing that for like 5, 6, 7 years. Just basically do small gigs, everything, to make you get by. And that's pretty much what I did. But I wanted to be world class. I wanted to be an expert, have some global impact, especially around Node.js and JavaScript essentially. So that's why I got to Codesmith, and okay.
And Lanre, did you continue working as a freelance software engineer while you did Codesmith?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I continued. Of course, one of the reasons why I chose the part-time, apart from the fact that I couldn't get to the US, was the fact that I had a family. I had to continue to take care of my family. I also had some other commitments. Especially around here in Nigeria. And I was able to juggle both of them together till I finished the program.
Cool. Okay, well, I want to get a little bit more into that. But Andie, okay, I love that you started with free workshops at Codesmith. That's such a great way to understand what the classroom feels like. And I recommend that to everyone who's looking for a boot camp right now. Start with free workshops. But did you research any other boot camps, and why did you end up choosing Codesmith? What stood out?
Yeah, definitely did a lot of research. I feel like this was a very big decision for me. So I looked into it quite a bit before I decided to go to Codesmith. I think there were a few things. I think I did really enjoy going to the workshops. And just by the way, when I was doing those, we were in person. So Codesmith held in-person workshops, which I thought was really nice. Get to go kind of meet people that might be in your cohorts, really see what the teaching style is like, right? But I do know there are remote ones now as well that we do over Zoom, and those are amazing too. So we definitely encourage people to do those. I think that was a big thing for me, seeing the community. But also, I think just in terms of reports that I had seen out online, just it wasn't about the salary that people were getting, right? But the fact that so many graduates got high-paying jobs, that told me there's something different about it, right? Like people are actually coming out at a higher level and they're able to get really good jobs at a very high rate. So I think that to me just spoke to the quality, I guess. So that was a very big reason also why I chose Codesmith.
I love that. Yeah, Codesmith is a part of CIRR, so you can like kind of trust those outcomes reports also. And totally agree, it's not necessarily about the salary, but the fact that people actually are getting hired afterwards, that would definitely stand out. So yeah, go ahead, Lanre.
Yeah, can I say something? I mean, that was a great reason to choose Codesmith. And for me, who have been a freelancer, so first, I don't see Codesmith, like I've always said, as a bootcamp, right? Because when you look at most bootcamps, and when I was doing my research on which coding school to go, I found out that most the entry level to Codesmith was a bit high. I mean, it doesn't take you from a 0 or a 1, to a 10 like most bootcamps would do, which is usually not realistic. But Codesmith would expect you to, to have gotten to like a 3 or a 4, so that the journey can, it's going to be a smooth ride, getting exactly to where you want to be. So when I saw that, I knew that, that's something that was really different. So that really, spoke to why I, make a choice for Codesmith above most other alternatives for coding schools that were available. And also, going through most of the alternatives that I saw, I could say that only Codesmith offered things like, a production project that had to do with, open source tools. I mean, having done this before and then being a software engineer, I was really looking forward to be able to do things like that and being able to help the community develop tools that other engineers would be able to use. And so when I find that as some of the things that Codesmith did on the website, I just knew that it should do this or no other, coding school.
Well, maybe one of the biggest differences between a full-time boot camp and a part-time boot camp is that when I talk to folks that go to part-time boot camps across the board, they just have a spectrum of different types of goals. Some people want to get a promotion at work, and others want to completely change their career, and others want to just use it as a way to build a new skill. So were your goals, I know you're both working as software engineers now, but was that both of your goals when you attended Codesmith to get that job as a software engineer on a team?
Yeah, for me, definitely. I was doing a big career switch in doing this. So that was the main goal is, I can learn on my own as well, but I think going through an immersive program like Codesmith was just really goes to another level, right? And so I think getting experience, learning a lot really quickly, and then being able to get a job afterwards, that was just kind of the path that I was going for.
All right, cool. I wanted, like I mentioned initially, I wanted to be an expert because I was self-taught, right? Like I was a generalissimo, like they say, jack of all trades, master of none. And then the moment I realized that Codesmith basically trains you and then introduces T-shaped development, I knew that's what exactly that I was looking for.
And how did each of you kind of weigh the decision between part-time and full-time? Lanre, you mentioned before that obviously you were continuing to work while you were doing the part-time boot camp or part-time Codesmith, and you also were in Nigeria and taking care of family. Like, is that why you chose part-time?
Yeah, so first that's the main reason. That's the main reason. I couldn't travel. I reside in Nigeria. I live in Nigeria, this Lagos. Yeah, and I did my entire program while here. So that for me was an obvious reason. And then, in addition to that, I'm also sure that I can really cope with, the pace and then the volume of work that you do in a part-time. Because it's 3 months, and then you have to spend 12, 15 or more hours a day. I learn slowly, right? So I don't learn as fast as Andie would, So, and apart from that, having to keep family and then, take care of family and all that, And also, again, it's a different, the time zone different, majority of the time, class for me is usually between 1 a.m., 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. as the case may be, so it wasn't something that I could, really do in a full time. The part-time was an obvious, choice for me.
That does sound like an obvious choice with all of those factors. No, I'm glad that it existed, that it was an option.
Yeah.
And Andie, did you ever consider doing part-time, or was it always like you were going to quit your old job, do a full-time boot camp, get a new job?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the opposite end, actually. Part-time did not exist when I started. So I didn't have the option, but I do 100% think that if I did have the option, I still would have gone full-time. And yeah, it depends on, who you are, what's going on in your life. I think for me, I was fortunate enough to be in the position where I could just quit my job and go 100% into the full-time immersive. And I think that was a good option for me. Yeah, I guess I do think a little bit different from Lanre in that respect. I really liked that it was more compact and I didn't have to spend 9 months, right? So it just depends on what you want and how you want to learn, I think. So just weigh those options for yourself if you're thinking about it. But I did put in a lot of time there for sure. They're long days, but I think that was worth it for me. And I wanted to work hard and I wanted to learn as much as I could and just get it done, basically, I guess. So that was, kind of my thought process through, like, if I did have the option, I think I still would have gone full time.
I think that makes perfect sense for both of y'all. And it just is kind of nice that both of those programs exist for current, applicants, people who are deciding to do a boot camp now. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your experience during Codesmith. The part-time program is 9 months and the full-time program is 3 months. I think the cost of the programs are the same. So how did y'all spend your time in class, and like how long did you spend working on Codesmith outside of class? I feel like that's probably the biggest time difference, right?
Yeah, I can start it off for full time. So I feel like the number of hours might scare people, but I know this is very cliche. You're going to hear it everywhere. It really is what you put in, you get back out, right? So there were people, in the full time. There were many people that did the regular hours of, I think it was 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? But there are other people that stay longer. So for me, some days that was okay, I'm going to stay until 10. Some days it was more like midnight. There were a few days that were probably like 1 a.m. But again, that was completely my choice, right? It wasn't required in any way. It was just that I felt like I had things to work on and I wanted to get better at. So I spent the time practicing. And, I do think in some ways that is easier with the full time because I had basically, I'd quit my job. I basically said, this is what I'm doing 100% of my time. So 24/7, I'm just dedicated to learning, doing Codesmith. And I didn't really have too many other things to take care of. So I think that is nice doing that full time. You kind of can, okay, I'm just going to stay late today and keep working. But yeah, I do think it was worth it for me. And it just depends on how much extra practice you think you need.
Sure. So that the minimum requirement was like the 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. commitment.
Yeah, those were like our class hours. Class hours, lectures, or we'd have, pair programming. We'd be actually working on projects during that time.
Very cool. And then Lanre, how often did you meet? Like how much class time did you have in the part-time program?
Yeah, the class time is usually 3 hours a day, and that's the official time. And then on Fridays is usually free, no classes, and then Saturdays is 6 hours. And so which basically is like 18 hours a week. Yeah. But of course, like Andie mentioned, it's a function of, how much you want to get. But then the part-time program is divided. I mean, it's spread out intentionally so that because it's expected that you have other things to do. You have a family, you have jobs to keep, and then you don't want to leave the jobs, but you need the education, right? So it's well spaced out so that you can do that. And oftentimes that gives you the opportunity if you really want to do something outside of class, especially the Friday that's, where you don't have to do anything. And then if you want, you can, double up, do pair program sessions outside of class or, learn some things which are not required, right? Because if you really stayed and then you trust the process, in a way, it eventually pays off.
Yeah, you have to trust the process for a much longer, for 9 months, right? Versus trusting it for 3 months. So, I mean, doing that type of part-time requirement, but over 9 months requires some serious self-motivation. It's kind of similar to learning, online maybe. So Lanre, what is your advice? Do you have any advice for other folks who are going to do a commitment like this part-time and how you set yourself up to really succeed? Or maybe it was something that Codesmith did and making sure that you stayed on track.
Yeah, I mean, the program is designed in such a way that it's usually check-ins from the team. I mean, a lot could happen within 9 months, right? So the constant checking, trying to find out what is happening. The setup of the program, which is divided into 3 sections, the first part of 3 months, where you focus mainly on the main curriculum, the theory, I mean, everything that you want to learn and that you want to cover. That's pretty much the most challenging part of the part-time program. But the moment you get into the project section, where you now begin to utilize most of the things you've learned and, also get it into the project themselves, that alone itself, those are motivations for you as an engineer to all want to continue to complete the project. And that for me was what kept me going. That motivated me. Now I can do this. Now I can do this. Now I can do this. That gave me all the motivation I needed to continue to go. And then once I got to the last part of the program, that's the last 3 months. I mean, I was just looking forward to, I'm almost arrived. Let's begin to think about, the job search.
So having it broken down into 3 different kind of modules helped you stay on track and kind of get to the next module easily. That makes sense. And Andie, was it set up similarly in the full-time 3-month program? So set up in 3 modules? Does it go main curriculum and then projects and then careers? Is that how it's broken down?
Yeah, pretty much. I thought of it more as kind of 2 separate sections where we did main curriculum and then project phase, but that might just be because it's so condensed that it's our job search kind of prep portion of it is kind of mixed in at the very end, kind of integrated with kind of the end of your project phase. But yeah, so I think I kind of think of it as 2, but very similar. Yeah.
Main curriculum and then projects and then careers, and maybe that is stretched out a bit more in the part-time program. Yeah. So, and then when you're thinking about like the technical curriculum, were y'all learning the same thing?
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Pretty much the same. I mean, everything is the same, the content, the coursework, the projects and everything. The only difference is, how the part-time is spaced out to accommodate for, the other things that you do in your other life, right? That's just the difference.
Got it. So how did Codesmith Career Services work for each of you?
For me, the full-time it goes really quickly. So I think it kind of creeps up on you. But once you start doing kind of, okay, let's get our resumes together, you get feedback. I think that's really helpful. And just kind of seeing some of the lectures that they give on interviewing as a software engineer, because it is very different from interviewing for non-technical positions. So I think that all was very helpful in terms of preparing for the process. The other thing with it, I guess, is all companies interview differently. So one thing might be helpful for one company, but it might not for another. And you just kind of have to prep on your own as well. But I think that the career portion and Codesmith itself was helpful in just kind of prepping you to be able to do that switch and just kind of like pick things up and do what you need to do to move forward. So I think that's kind of how I took it. And I definitely did do a lot of preparation after I graduated, and most people do. It's not, you know, I don't want to make it sound like it's an easy road because the job search is tough. Codesmith will help prepare you and kind of get you to that step, but you still have to do the work after to go through the job search and apply and prepare for that.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I had the same experience. The career service starts in the last portion of the part-time, which is the last 3 months. So it's basically the same thing, like you mentioned in the full-time. Algo optimization, you know, tech phone screen, how to handle that. You know, developing your profiles to be engineer focused, whiteboarding, system designs, and all those things. But again, in addition to that, there's also the post-grad career service that is added to this. And then I think I had a couple of one-on-one, you know, with the team, with the career team. So that really helped because, to be honest, you know, during the program, I didn't learn as much because the career service, though part-time is 9 months and spaced out, but the truth it is as intensive and immersive as the full-time. That's just the truth, you know. So some of the things that I didn't really get properly because of time, obviously because I was doing other things that got me distracted. You know, I came to get all of those even after my graduation. And they also provided, you know, an opportunity for you to join in the career services and lectures every week after your graduation. So that in a way helped me prepare for my job search.
That's really good to know that it kind of continues after your graduation day. And so, Andie, you're now a software engineer at Google. Congratulations. How did you get the job? Was it through Codesmith? Was it like through traditional channels? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I got connected to a recruiter at Google. It was actually so I did fellowship as well for a bit. And it was actually one of my fellows got a connection to the recruiter through someone at Codesmith. And so then I got connected, we started talking, and that's kind of how my application process started. Kind of a roundabout way, but yes, it was connected to Codesmith.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, I'm always curious how like hiring managers, you know, react to someone, to a career changer who went to a school like Codesmith.
Right. There are so many different immersive programs and boot camps out there that I think, I mean, my managers definitely didn't know what Codesmith was when we talked about it, but I think the general perception was like, oh, cool, you know, you took a different route than I did. Like I went to university and got a computer science degree. You didn't do that, but awesome. Like you still did well in the interviews, right? You're here. And I think I really appreciate that, right? It seems so far like a very accepting company, and my team is amazing.
Very cool. And what are you working on now? Are you working on like a specific team?
Yeah, I am. So I'm working on a product called Looker. It's a business intelligence platform in Google Cloud. So I'm still pretty new as well. I started a couple months ago. So still getting used to things, but it's awesome. I love it.
That's so cool. And do you feel like you are using the things that you learned at Codesmith on the job, or has it been like a total learning curve?
Some of each. I think, you know, there are some technologies that we use that I did get to dive pretty deep into while I was at Codesmith, but we use a lot of different stuff too. But I think I was prepared enough to be able to, okay, I'm just going to learn this, right? But I think that's just how software engineering is. Like, it doesn't matter where you go, that's just what your life is going to be. Yeah.
For sure. Well, cool. Congratulations. And Lanre, you just started a senior software engineer job at Exodus Movement. So how did you land that senior job title?
Okay, so I'd say a lot of things played into that. Obviously, I had some experience. It wasn't the kind of experience that you require for a senior role, right? But then, some of the things I learned in Codesmith, in addition to my role as a fellow, played a lot of roles in this. And I think, speaking to what Codesmith helps you to do, building that tenacity and making you an autonomous, problem solver all around. And when you're doing an interview, there is a way you can come out on interview as someone who's just learning, or someone who is just a new engineer, someone who's a mid engineer, or someone who's, is a senior engineer. And, by the way you talk on things that you know, and also by how you actually engage in your take-home assessment, for instance, So, and I said, like I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, that I wanted to be an expert, and one of the things I was looking really forward to be able to do was to technically communicate. And I think doing a mixture of those, communicating when you go to the interviewing, and taking the assessment, and really crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, like you would do if you're working in a production environment, threw me off to my interviewers and to the company that, yeah, this is the person we are looking for, and it has all the qualities to, tick everything that we're looking for as a senior software engineer. And, all of these things are, things that I got, while I was practicing as an engineering fellow in Codesmith after my residency. So that played a huge role.
And what are you working on today? I know you're only a few weeks into this new job, but what are you doing day to day?
Yeah, so so currently I'm on the core services team. And so we basically develop, I'm in the backend team, developing the backend services for mobile, for web, for, all the, client-facing applications that we have, for customer support, tracking, customer, request. So, and I'm using everything that I've learned in Codesmith. I mean, that's exactly my tech stack. It's like a duplication of what I had in Codesmith dropped into Exodus. So I have been just learning, and I've not been into crypto for a long time. I just started, so having to understand the code base, and, I did my first 2 PRs already. So I think I'm off to a good start.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Well, Congratulations to both of y'all. I just want to wrap up with one last question that I like to ask everyone who's been through a coding boot camp. Thinking back on, the past year and your career change, and thinking about however you calculate your kind of personal ROI, maybe it's through like salary, or, maybe you're happier in your career now, or you have more room for growth. However you think about this question, was Codesmith worth it for each of you?
Yes. I think kind of everything that you mentioned. And just job satisfaction, I think is a huge thing for me. I think I'm much happier doing this, being in tech. I enjoy it. So I think I'm much happier after this. And salary, as I said before, I think it's just kind of a bonus, right? That, I'm making more money than I did before. But yeah, I think definitely just like being happier in general now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I am working in a US company, living in Lagos, Nigeria, right? So for me, that's so cool. And then, So my answer to that is capital yes, right? And when I was going to get an offer, eventually I had multiple offers. I mean, it feels so good to see that now your hard work, your putting time has paid off. And again, another thing that was really interesting was the fact that I was contacted by Apollo Graphic, for instance, based on what we did in our production project. So even though I couldn't join because of immigration concerns, it feels so good, right, to see those companies, really, reach out to you and say, hey, we saw what you did here, and then how about you work with us? Stuff like that. It was really, it felt so good. And I want to just thank the opportunity I had with Codesmith and my family as well, who made my, having to always be available to do this, with my time zone, who made it really possible and made it easy for me. So, yep.
Amazing. Well, it's so cool to see you both so successful and have gotten there through kind of different, through the path that made the most sense for you. That's amazing. And I think that's a great place to end. So thank you so much, Lanre and Andie, for joining us and walking us through the part-time versus full-time experience at Codesmith. This was super helpful. And thank you for joining and making it to the end of this video. Let us know in the comments if you have questions about the part-time bootcamp experience. We'll see you on the next one.